I'm Jeff Pospisil, the 10-Minute Treasurer with practical advice for improving your church's financial future. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the difference between an endowment and an investment account. And I'm going to be talking from the church financial lens, like usual. And I'm going to try to make it as clear as I can, almost like I was drawing you a picture. Because what happens every now and then is churches will get a chunk of money and they'll be maybe faced with that decision, especially if they talk to some organization like a community foundation or a denominational foundation. So there are a number of similarities between the two. Both an investment account as well as an endowment, they're made for the long term. So they're not short-term investments, they are long-term investments. They should also be invested in some kind of a mutual fund. CDs just make a horrible endowment or investment account because they lose in the long term versus inflation. And both of them are also governed by a certain set of rules. You need rules to help manage it well. So those are the main similarities. To illustrate the difference, I want you to imagine that you were gifted two different apple trees. And with one apple tree, the donor said, go ahead and use it however you wish. So if you want to keep it just for apples, that's fine. If you want to chop it down, that's fine too. Whatever you wish, do with it as you please. With the second apple tree, the donor said, I don't want you to cut it down. I don't want you to harvest any wood from there, but just use up the apples every year. I want you to actually use up all those apples every year. So with that second one, that is like an endowment. So with an endowment, the principal or the original gift is like the tree, and then the income off that is like the apples you harvest every year. And every year you're gonna be able to harvest that and put it to use. And that's just going to keep going in a cycle as you harvest it and put it to use. So that's how an endowment works. It's really that steady income uh, that's going to be infused right into ministry. But with an investment account, you do have a lot of control over how you want to use that. So I can harvest apples and I can put them to use just like I did with the endowment, or maybe I just store it up, turn it into sauce, and I keep storing it up until I want to have a huge applesauce party or something. I don't know what you do, but that's your prerogative. Or maybe I want to harvest a limb. Maybe I want to have some firewood, or maybe I want to make a walking stick or something like that. Either way, that's up to me. So I could actually harvest some of the wood from that. It'll produce less apples in the future, but hey, that's up to me to how I want to manage it. So quite a few of you are numbers people, and it helps to see the math in order to fully appreciate and understand the difference. So what I decided to do is run a couple of hypothetical scenarios and just run the numbers on those. So for an endowment, what I did is I used for a return, I just used the last 8 years of returns for the Dakotas United Methodist Foundation. And for the withdrawal, that is the income for the church, or kind of like your harvest of apples. And what most foundations will do for endowment accounts is they'll distribute 4 to 5% of the average balance for an endowment to the church. And so I just use 4.5% of the average balance. So year one, we receive a $100,000 gift. We use it to create an endowment. That first year, they have a 16% return on investment, which means we have $16,000 in gains. And our church receives for income 4.5% of that original amount, so $4,500. That's our income on there. And you're going to see our balance has actually grown, which means we have more potential for greater future earnings, which is a cool thing. So what you're going to notice is that over the years, the rate of return, that's going to go up and down and sometimes even negative, but it's always more up than down. But the interesting thing is when you look at the income to the church, this withdrawal part, see how steady that is, um, because it's based on the average balance. And so it's mostly going up and slow and steady, which is nice. So you have what looks like about 35 to $40,000 of income to the church, and the balance keeps growing. So that's part of the strategy, is to grow that distribution steadily over time. And that's one of the beautiful things about an endowment. It ends up being a permanent source of income to the church. Now let's look at an investment account and run the numbers for that. So again, imagine hypothetically we receive $100,000 and there are no restrictions on if we're able to use the principal from this gift. So again, we're going to have that 16% return, and maybe we just let it sit. So we ride it and don't pull out the earnings or anything. And maybe we do that for the first 3 or 4 years. We just let it ride, and then something comes up. Maybe we have to replace the carpet or something. So we decide, hey, let's pull out $15,000. After all, it's growing, and that seems like a responsible thing to do. And then maybe we pull out another $15,000 the next year, and then we let it ride again. And maybe that last year, something big comes up. Maybe we have to repave the parking lot, so we pull out $70,000. So that's one of the really nice things about an investment account is you have a lot of control over how much and when you could pull that money out of that account. And so here's the one thing I don't want you to miss. And this is one of the things I love about long-term investing is that it really multiplies our donors' money. So that was a $100,000 gift to start with. Guess what? This is $100,000 in withdrawals that we had, and we still have $85,000 in the account. So we've nearly doubled their money. So what a blessing that is when you invest it correctly. You could not have done that with CDs. It's not even possible at all to do that with CDs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the description some contact information for both the Dakotas and Minnesota United Methodist Foundations, as well as any links they have to some information that might be helpful to you. Again, this is a ministry of the Finance Office of the Dakotas Conference, as well as the Dakotas United Methodist Foundation. And we're doing this because of our values of Jesus, mission, and connection. All right. God bless you.